Der Deutsche Werkbund Berlin hat vor kurzem den Rechtsanwalt Otto Schily als neues Mitglied aufgenommen. Der Vorstand des DWB Berlin begrüßt Herrn Schily als neues Mitglied. Gleichzeitig sieht sich der Vorstand des DWB Berlin gezwungen, ein Wort zu den jüngsten Ereignissen um Herrn Schily zu sagen. Herr Schily ist aufgrund unbewiesener Verdächtigungen von der Verteidigung einer Mandantin ausgeschlossen worden. Gegen ihn wie gegen andere Rechtsanwälte, die als links gelten, wird sowohl von staatlicher Seite als auch von verschiedenen rechtsstehenden Presseorganen in einer Weise vorgegangen, die man nur noch als Versuch der Kriminalisierung der Verteidiger bezeichnen kann. Es ist aus rechtsgeschichtlichen Forschungen zweifelsfrei belegt, dass die deutsche Justiz sich bereits während der Weimarer Republik parteiisch verhalten hat. Zu einem Zeitpunkt, da die Pressekonzentration in der Bundesrepublik und Westberlin reaktionäre Kräfte begünstigt, sollte wenigstens die Justiz um die Einhaltung demokratischer Rechte und Regeln bemüht sein. Aufruf des Solidaritätskomitees für Rechtsanwalt Schily. Am 19. Juni 1972 wurde der Westberliner Rechtsanwalt Otto Schily auf Antrag der Bundesanwaltschaft von dem zuständigen Richter beim Bundesgerichtshof von der Verteidigung der inhaftierten Gudrun Enzlin ausgeschlossen. Gleichzeitig wurde ein Ermittlungsverfahren eingeleitet. Als Begründung wurde angeführt, es bestehe der dringende Verdacht, dass Rechtsanwalt Schily, den die beschuldigte Gudrun Enzlin mit ihrer Verteidigung beauftragt hat, sich an der kriminellen Vereinigung, der die Beschuldigte angehört, als Mitglied beteiligt oder diese zumindest unterstützt und sich damit der Mittäterschaft gemäß § 129 Absatz 1,47 des Strafgesetzbuches schuldig gemacht hat. Keine Beweise sind für die Richtigkeit dieser ungeheuren Anschuldigungen erbracht worden. Noch nicht einmal der angeblich existierende Originalkassiber konnte der Öffentlichkeit gezeigt werden. Vorbereitet wurde dieser Schritt mit gezielten Diffamierungen durch den Generalbundesanwalt gegen solche Rechtsanwälte, die konsequent die Rechte ihrer Mandanten auch im politischen Verfahren gegen alle Versuche staatlicher Willkürmaßnahmen verteidigen. Gerade Rechtsanwalt Schily ist bekannt und anerkannt als ein Anwalt, der in unzähligen Prozessen entschieden gegenüber allen Versuchen, die Rechte der Angeklagten in irgendeiner Form einzuschränken, aufgetreten ist. Die hier Unterzeichneten des Solidaritätskomitees protestieren energisch gegen diesen unerhörten Versuch, Herrn Rechtsanwalt Schily gerade wegen seiner entschiedenen Haltung mit Gefängnis und Rufmord zu bedrohen. Um diese Angriffe der Justiz und der Polizeibehörden abzuwehren und der bisher einmaligen Pressehetze gegen Rechtsanwälte politischer Gefangener wirksam entgegenzutreten, haben die Unterzeichneten nach einem Gespräch mit Rechtsanwalt Schily zur Gründung des genannten Solidaritätskomitees mit Rechtsanwalt Schily aufgerufen. Zu den Aufgaben des Komitees wird gehören: Sammlung von Unterschriften, Aufdeckung der unglaublichen Diffamierungsmethoden und der gezielten Kriminalisierungsversuche von Seiten der Bundesanwaltschaft und der reaktionären Teile der Presse. Das geschieht mit dem Ziel, die Rücknahme des Ausschlussbeschlusses und die Einstellung des Ermittlungsverfahrens gegen Rechtsanwalt Schilly zu erzwingen. Das Solidaritätskomitee Schilly wird aus diesem Grund auch öffentlich auftreten und Pressekonferenzen halten. Geben auch Sie Ihre Unterschrift. Unterstützen Sie das Solidaritätskomitee Schilly finanziell. Beteiligen Sie sich an der Arbeit des Komitees.
Now I invite you to the final discussion, and it's always a little bit hard and difficult to do something like a final discussion and to find the one output or resume of such a dense and intense conference. But we should try. So I thought not to do it too long, because it's the wish of many of us not to stay too long, but to have a short, intense discussion. I suggest to do it in 3 parts. So first I would like to ask Katarzyna, Marcelo and Gilbert Lupfer, because Pavel already had to leave us, about a new idea or a new method which came out of your workshops this afternoon. Then I would like to include you and ask you about one very moving or touching aspect, idea, thought, what was important for you, perhaps to collect some aspects or some open questions. And at the end, I would like to speak about that very directly. How can we come from thinking to doing, from reflecting to acting? And perhaps to collect also very precise and concrete ideas, perhaps which are coming out of this conference. So, first round, who wants to start? Katarzyna, Marcelo, Gilbert Lupfer, who wants to start?
I think we had no new methods or new ideas in our workshop, but it was, I think, for all our 7 or so, very, very interesting. We learned very much about this case of the museum in Gdansk, but when we started, Pavel started to talk about the story from his article in 2007 till the end, his demission as the director of the museum in this year, about these 10 years. And when we had some questions, but when we talked a lot of Polish society, as the Polish society works, as politics in Poland works, and it was for me, and I think also for others, very interesting to hear that we don't know so much about this society, this nation who is only 100 kilometers from here away. It was, I think, for us all very interesting to learn more about this, about the role of the museum in the society, but more about this Polish society who is not so known here, and we really don't understand. At the end, we talked about these forces with the parties in Poland, that now it's the minority, but a very strong minority coming from not from the towns, the cities, rural minority, but who is dominating now the society. It's not the intellectual class in the cities, not the academic class, where we are far away. Pavel said 90% of the academics are far away from the government, but where is the Catholic Church, the people from the farmers and so on, who on the one hand benefit from the EU, and on the other hand see that Brussels and Berlin, say that Brussels and Berlin are their enemies. And about this we discussed 2 hours, and we could have discussed 1 more or 2 more hours, I think.
Thank you so much, Gilbert Lupfer, as head of our research department. And I think it's also very important for institutions to start into these discussions inside the institutions, to start with this true transformation which we all want to have. Yeah. Katarzyna, would you like to continue?
So also this workshop was, I don't think we had any answers. Did we have answers? No, so a lot of questions. Yeah, different ideas, but also it was told that every population probably has to find its own way, because of course you can see how other people, how other nations or how other societies are working against threats, but of course we will have time to, we have to have time to understand which method we can appropriate, also as artists. First of all, to go on, and second of all, to try to be alternative to the impact of our state party now. Just to have an alternative, even imaginary, how to create an alternative imaginary to populist and very emotional loaded pictures that are used by the current, I don't know if I can say regime, not yet.
Yeah. Thank you, Katarzyna. I remember, so on our first day, so when we confronted your statement of the abstract with Olafur Eliasson's attitude towards this question as an artist, he has a very idealistic way of working and going on and creating strong images. And you asked the honest question, has art really the possibilities to change something? Because now also the economy and they're taking over the tools and the methods of artists. Yeah? However, you're more skeptical in this sense.
I'm more skeptical, but it's just the beginnings.
Yeah, thank you. I pass over to Marcelo.
Well, the meeting that we had was quite intense, because we had a problem to solve, and one problem was there was some material from the Archive of Avant-Garde collection, some material from Otto Mühl from Vienna that has decided to create a comuna in the 60s, and in the end he was accused of being a pedophile and etc. And then we started to discuss, because the conversation was about utopia and about some questions regarding utopia and the whole of the museum on it. And then we have a very intense discussions about how to solve this problem. How we gonna show and exhibit this Otto Mühl Kommune story in a museum in a fair way. Meaning, we should put the material there and just writing that Otto Mühl was an artist and a pedophile. It means that the end of this utopian experience has as a result that everything was bad during this whole process. How could we deal with this kind of a material from history in a way that we could be fair with the history and at the same time give to the audience the possibility of being informed, but not decide in the name of the audience what was meaningful or not, what was right or what was wrong. In the end, Mahim is there. I don't know if I agree with description of the process. And then after this problem that we'll try to solve, we start asking questions to ourselves about how the museum is dealing with its own paradox, meaning the museum has as a mission to collect, to preserve, to take care of culture, let's say. But at the same time, the museum has a social place and has a social mission with the community. So we understand that put a text on the wall is not the answer anymore. We understand that which kind of tools we have to give the audience the possibility of have a proper decision regarding what they are seeing. And in the end, we start to have a set of questions and not answers. And personally, I don't think this is bad, because for so many time regarding the museum's history, we stop to asking the questions because we start to be accommodated regarding what a museum could be or should be. And maybe I'm optimistic, not pessimistic regarding this, because maybe we could start a process of asking the proper questions, how to have a more balanced relationship between the institution and its missions regarding the society.
Thank you, Marcelo. I think this is the right keyword for going on further in the discussion, collecting questions instead of answers. And I would invite you that everybody who wants to say something, perhaps one open question for him personally, some moment which was very touching, moving for him or her, to share it with the others. So not to do it for 2 hours, very quick, but like in a staccato, but to collect many open questions. Perhaps I make a start. So for me, it's an open question. So when I take it honestly, what was spoken very often these days, that is important not only to listen intense to each other, but also to start with the true transformation of the museum. How we could do it faster, how we can speed up. So I don't know if you know these Se proposte per nuovo secolo di Italo Calvino. Italo Calvino has written it before he died, and it was for Harvard, for the lectures in Harvard. And the first proposition for the new century was velocità, so speeding up. And the second was leggerezza, what I really like. Very unexpected propositions, and all of them are very nice. Complexity and consistency. He died before he could finish consistency. And so the first was velocità, and how we could start a process of transforming which not lasts other generations. So this is my question. So I don't know who wants to continue.
How do we work together? How do we work together as institutions? How do we work together as institutions and the people? How do we move from being gatekeepers and protectors of items and knowledge and become translators? Because history allows us to know how we've failed and how we've succeeded. Art and culture gives us the possibility to dream of new answers. And can we all agree that it's about time my ancestors' bones come back?
So you can give your microphone to somebody who wants to.
Yes, I have 2 points. One is my most important impressions are the following. The first, which was a theme, is that we could learn about the role of museums, also of encyclopedic museums in other countries, not in non-European countries. That means it's also my experience. Most of these museums are dealing with quite other questions. That means it was mentioned. The museum is very important for nation building. This is a very important fact in the world. We told about the post-national ideas at the first on the first day, but in the world, in Africa, the tasks, the objectives are others at the moment, it's still developing. It's a point of nation building.
What's your question? Your open question?
The second is a very interesting point also for me. I would say it in this context. It's to learn about the global hunger of diversity. Eugene told about it from Singapore, no? And this is also very interesting that this idea or this concept is not only based in Europe. It's also interesting to hear that it's around. My question is, we learned about the very different preconditions in the world, in the museums. Not only by concept, nation building, this aim, but also by the material preconditions. These are very different between Europe and in Africa, for example. What can we do? Would it be possible to be very concrete? We have big institutions, they have partnerships, but can we do also, it's a question to you, a longer lasting, not also a short, a longer lasting partnership with one museum in Africa, in Asia, in America, as SKD, perhaps, no? You know, other big museums have that, but I don't know, we have it, we don't have it. Let's think about it. A very concrete idea, long-lasting partnership in order to share heritage, to build up trust between the colleagues, between the people, the population around. This is my question.
Thank you. Can you give it to somebody? Oh, here, you want.
Two brief questions. I take the liberty to quote Nana's question, which I find very important. How do we write about, contextualize, or how is art that does not take on wholesale imported paradigms, such as Western theories and methodologies? And that's why I wanted to allude to the fact that the category art itself is an imported paradigm. And then the second question, what was, to me, the most moving was Roxley Foley's comment, and I quote him, "You don't have to fear us. We're not here to ransack your collections. We don't want your ex-heads. What matters," and I repeat, what matters to us are our ancestors and sacred objects. And then he offers a way to move from thinking to doing, which is what you wanted. And he offered us not a moral demand or a political argument, but he offers us help to fix our misguided anthropological mistakes. My question would be, how do we create the institutional structures so that someone like Roxley Foley moves from being an informant or political victim to be an institutionalized co-anthropologist or co-art historian?
Just don't call me an anthropologist.
That's very tricky to
Big question. Who wants to? Yeah, Mr. Hugh.
We heard from the Humboldt Forum the idea to follow the concept to create knowledge, by connecting objects, by connecting knowledges. My question is, there's something wrong in it? Maybe it's better to go for creating experiences. So the people, our visitors, get, of course, experiences if they are there, and there in front of these objects and our arrangements. So, so we can also create their experience. It may be in memorizing their own experiences, or to compare experiences. So experiences, for example, we can do it also by princely fashion. So everybody goes in front of a mirror, and if you plan to go for an event, a special event, so you start to study yourself and to compare yourself with other people, how, and you find what is wrong with your situation. So this is a point you can start with, and my idea of my profession is the emancipation of people, of myself and of people, so that they do not only wonder about the wonderful art and how is it made and fantastic. So it should give them some freedom, some power, some good experiences of themselves to learn. So the history, the not nice history of mankind is included in our works of art and in our also decorative art. So we can deal with it a lot of. So my question is, isn't it better more to go for experiences, creating experiences?
You can give it to your neighbor.
But experience is not to have without knowledge. The museums are dominant and very important historical forms of order, of the construction of order of knowledge. And this knowledge should not be a cognitive knowledge, it isn't. It's a knowledge with other sensitive connections and so on. And I'm a little bit skeptical also against velocità. Yeah, in relation to the lethargy of Italian museums and institutions, yes, he is right. But perhaps the museums are counter institutions against the velocità of all our everyday life. We have such exaggeration of velocità that perhaps they are reflected, they are the possibility of locations of reflection, of sensible observation and so on, and also discourses, critical discourses clearly, seems not unimportant, I think.
We leave it also as an open question, okay?
Yes, and last I would add shortly, perhaps not as question, it was interesting, this discourse about what is the encyclopedic. And the encyclopedic was often, and not wrongly, discussed as the unity of all things in the world. That is in some respect true, and in some respect related to the colonialism and the construction of one world from the Western point out. That's true. But in the history, encyclopedic was for allem a case of lexicalisch, of a lexicon, of a form to save and to collect all knowledge and to do it in a systematic way, who is more a compendium and medium for questions as for answers. For example, the Diderot and D'Alembert Encyclopédie, or the lexicon of Zedler and others. So this is also an aspect, I think, not only the unity of knowledge, but the question, the material for questions in our culture.
Where's the microphone? Here's the next. Deutsch.
Thank you very much, Marion, and everybody else. I think really this has been a fantastic meeting, and maybe we've had quite a bit of discussions, and which have been fantastic. For me, I think I'm pretty clear, and my question really would just be, you know, what is the way forward? What after this? To me, that is the most important question. Otherwise, we stand either a good or bad opportunity of just opening up a discussion and going into anticlimax, because I think most of the things we are saying now, we've already said them for the last 3 days. And we from that part of the world, we love to leave things when it's still sweet, when the food is still tasty. Not fill yourself so much until now you can't even move from the table where you are being given the food. So with all due respect, I feel that maybe we've just had, we may open up another discussion which basically goes around what we have discussed, but with due respect. So I would just ask one question: what is the way forward? And once we get that answer, then maybe it's time to go and lie down. Thank you very much.
So thank you, George. I think we should use this to open now the last round, the question exactly what could be the next steps, how could we profit from these intense coming together. We feel so honored that so many of you made these long ways and spent so much time. So I must say not everybody had the time, some had to go away, and everybody is so busy in these days, but we feel so honored that many of you stayed here and still staying till Sunday, some of you, and so we deeply feel obliged, it's not the right word, but we have to dedicate something after that to our doing. We have to feel something. What we could collect ideas. So we were just discussing in smaller groups some ideas. Perhaps I can tell it you to all of them. So we have discussed if we could, for example, create a space, a platform where we could invite you, the speakers from this conference, who wants to come, not only to analyze things in theory, but to create a form of display. So this is our main tool in the museum, to have displays, to have a visual form of, and to do something like model forms of exhibitions, how to work with people, and to do it perhaps one after the other, and also to use other forms of methods to communicate. So Roxley, for example, he explained today at lunch this very nice old traditional Australian form of coming together around a fireplace. So he has an official function as a firekeeper. And what that means, so it's a purely democratic idea, much more democratic than the parliament, as you explained to me, where you need 51% till one opinion has won. You're staying together around a fireplace till everybody came to a common solution. And so to introduce other methods of communicating, to develop models. Perhaps you can do it in a Japanese palais, because it is not so much defined space yet. It's not a museum with its own branding. It's a very undefined space. So, then there was a question of publication. So we thought a conventional book wouldn't be the right thing. In any case, every speech is on YouTube. You can have it afterwards. We could also discuss the format we have in the episodes of the South, which I really like, that one person is doing an interview with the other one. Perhaps creating also dialogue between persons who are not so near to each other. So which have more difficulties perhaps to understand each other, and to do it like in a circle, so that so we could invent forms of continuing to the discussion. We could also do very simple but effective things like giving Bartolome books for his library and selling his cafe in our places and send the money back. So we had. Of course, it would be very helpful to install workshops, internal workshops for our staff and the people from here. I think it's always very important to start where you are, also with the people with whom you're working. Another possibility would be to create an advisory board out of this conference, that you really can also evaluate very severe our work, how our transformation, and be at our side. Yeah, and the last keyword I noticed, it was I very much liked what Nana said, but many others from you, to stress these two-way stream movements, so that you always have to think in both directions, and that's not so easy. Perhaps we need some advice how to do it, how to start it, and that also means that we have to travel and visit you, not only to stay here. So I try to put it together, what I came to me, to my ears, but perhaps you have other ideas. That's enough.
It goes very much in the direction you were already talking, but Nana and I were talking, and it would be nice to maybe visiting each other and making this to a main tool, visiting each other, learning from each other, how we are working here, who else is working somewhere else, and trying to help each other building up institutions and museums. So we need help for our concepts, ideas, to invite people, but also having the exchange, and maybe having the exchange in Ghana or wherever, and could help to have these discussions. And yeah, so the traveling thing could be, and having the very strong network of institutions, that would be.
I would like to steal Eugene's idea of the children's biennial. Or to work together, to install the children's biennial as a real international, powerful tool. I can tell you what Matthew told me before he left. He said when he's coming back to Boston, first he would like to do a similar thing with his own staff, to start also there in his own museum, and then he would like to change his institution into a listening institution. And he himself would decided not to talk so much anymore himself, and not to be so egocentric, not Eurocentric, he's Canadian, but egocentric, and to be more a listener. I think that's also a nice result. Marcelo, do you have something? What would you wish?
Oh, my wish, it's very simple. We should learn again how to talk to each other without any kind of hierarchy, and in a way that we can and understand the other in a way that without any previous judgment. But this is really, really a work of a life. We need to learn how to listen again. It also means to listen about how institutions are dealing with their problems and how we could learn from this experience. In a practical level, I would say that I don't know the answer, Mario, but maybe we should find a way of have endless communication and not only work in projects in time, or not only to have a platform that we're going to be there once in a while, but we have a very, very intense communication. Like, could we have a collective collection that we can show this collection in different places or in different countries? And could you have a collective way of dealing with the pieces, but also dealing with the curatorial strategies? Could we create a institution that could be material and immaterial at the same time? This could be an interesting challenge, and maybe something new can come from it.
Thank you, Marcelo. So, and we have also,
yeah,
Peggy.
I'll say just briefly, I want to second that, but say it in a slightly different way, which is I think that part of being able to talk to each other is figuring out, not just listening, but figuring out how to say things so that other people can hear them. And also to realize that difficult conversations are difficult. And so you shouldn't try to erase that or make it all better, but sort of learn how to hold the ambiguity and this discomfort and the humbling that it might mean for yourself, because that's what it means to actually communicate. And I also think that there are, we said a lot about alternative epistemologies and alternative models, and there are those models out there. And so I think we have to really commit to doing the research, to finding out what they are, and then bringing them to light and actually taking them seriously, because I don't think we have to start from zero. So
Peggy, that was the perfect final comment on that. Let me add only a small footnote, but which is also very important. So besides talking and creating models, there are also some, I would say, hardcore things we can do. So, for example, to start giving back the human remains and from our collection, and we will do it from October on. We have to New Zealand, Australia, Hawaii and Namibia. We have 4 cases, and you will hear about that already this year. So we decided to do it finally after a long time of discussing, and also to be aware of this illicit traffic and what you also said, that these are very serious subjects which are also very important for us to be aware of it. And of course to see, look at our neighbors, international neighbors in Central Europe. For this year, I think also our colleagues from far, they saw that it's very important also to very deeply look into Europe and to help that the erosion of the European idea is not going on, and to support that this will work better in the future. So I'm now coming to my last words to thank. I want to again thank the Auswärtigen Amt and Andreas Görgen for the funding of this conference. You heard him speaking on the first day, and he really meant it by heart, that this also for him personally is a very important thing we did. I thank James Snyder and Hartwig Fischer for the cooperation, and Daniel Kühnel and Sarah Weintritt for the musical orchestration of the art festivals, because Jerusalem and London, they are doing parallel these festival things. Lilian Astrid Gese and Sylvia Schreiber, they did this wonderful simultaneous translation in a high quality all the time, and I thank her for them. Please, applauding. And as always, there's also an organizational team behind it, and the best thing is when you don't feel that it's organized. But so I'm a big thank to Florence Thomas, Ute Thomas, Dana Korzuschek, Annegret Klinker, Wenke Ladewig, Jennifer Siebert, Lisa Seltmann, Stefan Adam, Dorin Scherfke, Valerie Eckel, Martin Zaweski und Jürgen Lange. And we had also a big internal advisory team, which I really like, because as you already heard, we prepared this conference with a team about around 40 colleagues in something like a scientific round table in advance, and created some questions. And I want say that especially Nora Dirani, Rudolf Fischer, Jan Hüsken, Romy Kraut, Gilbert Lupfer, Vera Marusic, Maria Obenaus, Peter Plastmeier, Marcelo Rezende, Nanette Snoop, and many others were so intensely preparing. Oh, yes. And a big thank to the technical team. Thank you so much for that reminding me. And I want also to thank the Archiv der Avantgarden, the ADA team, for these uncommented great interventions in between. And last but not least, to every speaker on the conference, everybody who came to visit us to Dresden this long way and to waste so much time to be with us. Thank you so much, and we promise there will be a result. We are going on, and we are writing you soon. We have to sleep about it and see what is going on, but we will go on further, and I'm happy to say this, and I'm happy after 2.5 years intense experience. Thank you so much.